But then I found this. After having that one for a couple weeks, this came into my life and changed everything about being a guitar player. So this is the Red Eye, 1959 Les Paul. This was Ed King's, and it was his prized guitar in a really good collection. He had a lot of great instruments.
Yeah,
and,
no kidding.
The Carters called me to come in and demo some of the guitars that Ed's widow Sharon brought in after Ed had passed, and I came in and played the Sweet Home Alabama Strat and a couple of other things, and then I saw this on a stand, and I said, is that really the one, you know, is that the original? And they said, yeah, that's it. I was like, can I play it? And they said, well, that's why we put it out here. And I felt myself being tricked.
I was going to say, do you think they knew ahead of time you were going to get your hands on that and take it home?
I thought, okay, I've been duped, but I know that, and I'm okay with it, and I still love these people. But I picked it up, and I got lost on my way home that day, and I couldn't sleep, and I just couldn't stop thinking about this guitar. And so I called my accountant, and she said, no, that's ridiculous. You can't have that guitar. So I called my manager, and I told her, I need you to find me a bunch of weird birthday parties to play this year. No Gaddafis, you know, no terrible people. Just find me some crazy wild private gigs because I have to buy this guitar. And so I got this guitar, and we took the tuners off and we put some period correct new tuners, because the old ones, believe it or not, were still functional and still worked great. Wow. And I didn't want either me or my tech Michael to break one of them off and have a terrible day. You know, it's like a Toyota Corolla in your hand.
In your hand,
break one of the,
yeah. And that old Bakelite and plastic and stuff is real.
It doesn't hold up. Yeah, they turn into a dead man's toenails real quick.
This actually looks original.
This is original.
Wow.
And then this I switched out because I like to top wrap and I didn't want to scratch it up. And then I think everything else is the way it originally was. The frets have been changed up to somewhere around here. I think Ed had them changed out partially, had a partial refret done, but everything else is what it's supposed to be.
This has got to be the lowest action I've ever seen on a Les Paul.
Yeah,
it's
pretty low.
So low.
And I'll tell you, it does everything I have ever wanted a humbucker guitar to do, you know.
This does that thing, huh?
The middle position on this is very, very special. Even for 1959 Les Pauls, it's a very special middle position. And the neck profile is perfect. You can see, you know, Ed's wedding ring, and there's a couple of little nicks and scratches, but nothing major. Yeah, no real buckle rash.
Yeah, very minimal. That's crazy.
He took care of it. You know, Ed had it for a long time. It was stolen from him and famously returned to him over a decade later. And
so, do they know how this discoloration came to be?
Yes, that was originally, you know, the red all the way around, and then this is where the tag was hanging in the window. And so the UV light faded that aniline dye and took the red out of most of the 58 and 59 Les Pauls. But in 60 they started going to the tomato soup color, which didn't fade, that darker red.
But even, I mean, it's just so beautiful.
It's clean, and I mean, look at the corners on the headstock, like they're sharp.
Still sharp.
Yeah, which is kind of unbelievable.
It's pretty rare, yeah.
But yeah, the nut is original, you know, the selector is original. Somebody somewhere along the line carved a little bit out of the G string to keep it from slipping. Which I think still works great, you know. But it's got a double white and a zebra, and then the zebra here I think is overwound, maybe 600 turns, but also the magnet has weakened over time, so it
they do lose.
Balances it out in a way in that middle position that's just almost impossible to replicate. But Knopfler's 58 has a red dot here. His is not as pronounced. And then there are a couple more that have them too. But that's where they hung the tag at the guitar store and put them in the window.
What a trip.
So yeah, this is, you know, as far as possessions go, that's my prized possession.
Out of curiosity, are you trying to stay off of that guitar at night just to not
No.
I mean, it's blown my mind.
It's made it 60 years, you know, and I'm trying not to drop it. But other than that, I'm going to use it.
You got the old Kolsch.
So hopefully you don't have any that's still kind of the best way to do that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think it's supposed to be played, you know, and that was one thing that I talked with Sharon about when I got the guitar was, I'll take it out and play it and tell people it was Ed's and tell people how much you loved it and how magical it is, and it won't go in a vault somewhere.
Yeah, that's real cool, man.
It's in a vault, but not a bank vault.
Right. Not some lawyer's personal collection or something.
Yeah, which is cool. I'm glad those guys like guitars too. But I think something like this, it looks nice, but when you hear it in a room like the Ryman, it really changes. Like it changes something.
How cool.
So that's. I've got awards and stuff, and I don't go look at those every day, but that I look at every day. I don't have to ask permission to play it.
It's such an accomplishment to own, right?
It is.
It's gotta be like one of those...
kidding. Like, you feel like, other than just like having a family and taking care of them, that's about as good a career accomplishment as you can have as a guitar player, to have an instrument like that, because it's like, I'm never going to outgrow that. I'm never going to get to the point where that is normal to me, to have that guitar.
Stradivarian violin
to a
fiddle player.
Yeah, it's
crazy.
that kind of thing. And there aren't, they don't make any more of them. They do, but not real ones. What do they say? There were, like 623 made, and there's only a couple thousand left, because people have faked them over the years. But
hey, I'm John Bolger with Premier Guitar. I am here with Jake Kiszka of Greta Van Fleet. Jake, congratulations, man. Since I last saw you, you won a Grammy, or 2 Grammys.
Yeah,
2 Grammys.
Yeah, one.
God, won a Grammy.
Yeah.
Took over the world.
Yeah.
Last time I saw this guitar, you were holding it together with duct tape.
I know.
Literally.
That's right. I
duct tape.
remember that. That's right.
Yeah,
it's
it
a little better now.
Had a little noble battle scar from
That's right.
a rock and roll tragedy.
It's right. I can be pretty brutal with that. I guess since you can see, it's been fixed subtly, but you can see just where they crack sort of ends up being right in here.
Yeah,
That's
one
fantastic.
more ding really didn't make any difference on that.
No, I don't think so.
So for those people that didn't see the last rig rundown, talk about this guitar.
Yeah, so this is a 1961 Les Paul, rather than what's referred to as the SG body style, which, because Les Paul didn't have anything to do with designing this body style for Gibson. It was, he wanted his name taken off of it, so I think 63s or 4s are referred to as SG solid guitar.
Right.
And these are referred to as Les Pauls still. So I use mainly this one. This is number 1, 61.
That is the only guitar, I've watched a ton of your stuff, and that's the only guitar I've really seen you play. Now granted, it's hard to tell sometimes.
Right.
But it always looks like that one.
Yeah, I use this for pretty much every song that I can if it's on electric. And I've used this in the studio quite a lot. I have another 61 Les Paul, actually, since last week.
Oh.
So it's a backup, and I use that for switches. So.
Okay, let's just see that.
Yeah, of course. There's also subtle differences as well.
Okay, let's see this guy.
It's pretty good.
I love that you're still doing the rock and roll straight chord, just right.
Thank you. Yeah.
Just the cable right into that. No wireless. I love that.
Yeah. I think it sounds better. I don't know. There's a direct sort of response to it.
And the other one, number 1, that's pretty much all original, right? The PAFs and the whole deal.
Everything's original. And you can really sort of hear the amount of like contours and the tonality over time. You can hear the journey, of the guitar.
Right.
The pots and the dust and the sweat.
It all adds to it.
It totally does. And it's interesting. So this is another 61 Les Paul vintage, but it has different qualities of tone than the other one. But it's good it's a little bit brighter, and these PAFs are a bit hotter as well. So it's cool for a little bit of difference in tone. So
sure.
If you want to hear this.
Oh yeah. Let's do the taste test.
Yeah. So this is the same settings. It's a bit hotter. Hotter.
It's funny. I bet listening on your tiny computer at home, you can't tell the difference, but here it is really a very distinct difference. Yeah. Yeah, it almost seems like it's got a little more high end to it.
Definitely. It definitely does.
This one had a much easier life than your number 1.
It did, yeah. It seems less of a casualty, doesn't it?
Yeah, that thing's lived. This thing's been like under a bed. Where
this
did
is
you
interesting
find it?
too. I actually, Marlon Young, who's Kid Rock's guitar player, and his friends, we're friends with him. He found this. I don't know where he sourced it from, but he found it somewhere, and he was going to buy it.
Yeah.
And I said, no, you can't have it. I'm gonna buy it. And then so I picked it up from him, kind of.
Oh, that's great.
But actually, another thing about this guitar is that the number one Les Paul that I normally use is blocked off on the sideways.
Oh, okay.
Vibrato. Or
And this one is still.
This one works. So I actually use that sometimes, but subtly. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, that's great, man.
Yeah.
So you're probably always on the lookout for another one, if that is your thing.
It is. And I find that it's just anything with PAFs, even like bursts or something like that. You know, it's like PAFs are just such a great sounding pickup.
Oh,
and
right.
I really like that era from 60s, 63. If it's a vintage guitar, I do like reissues or some contemporary guitars, but these are great.
So in the comment sections, if you've got a 61 Les Paul that you want to get rid of, this is the guy. This is the guy.
I'll take it.
Yeah.
I'll take it off your hands, gladly.
Oh, man.
So let's get to this.
The elephant.
Voila, the elephant in the room. Courtesy of Cesar's private collection over at Gibson. Shout out Cesar. He let me play this last year, actually, when we played
Down at the Ascent.
down at the Ascent.
Barry and I were
We
there.
opened for the Black Crows. The whole thing was like, oh, I'll just play it for one tune. And he was like side stage, and like 3 tunes in, I was like, I'm not putting it down. But so this is a real 1959 Gibson Les Paul. It's got beautiful wearing. You know, there's a little bit of the cherry that didn't fade. It's just my style too. You know, kind of like.
I could see you going home with this one.
Yeah, right? Yeah. Funny thing, me too. I think there's some people who could see me not going home with this, though.
Man, and it just came to light not too long ago is that it's really close to Peter Green's in terms of serial numbers, because Kirk Hammond has that, and him and Kirk did a video and article, and the guitars are really close.
They are really close. I've
special
not
heritage.
seen Greenie in person,
Yeah,
but they
nor
call
have
this
I.
one Gemini.
Oh, okay.
And I think they're like 3 or 4 serial numbers apart. It's really cool. It's just an amazing guitar. When I first played it, I was like, wow, it's like holding an electric eel. It's just like, zah, you know. It's got a real, I think it's more akin to this one.
Okay.
In terms of bite, but a little more sweeter. You know, that's a pretty harsh, relatively speaking, you know.
I'm going to shut up, and I'm going to let you play it, just so people can hear it. I won't denigrate Angus and the SG heritage that he brings to the table, but you guys did during soundcheck a Shoot to Thrill cover.
Oh yeah.
And that was a pretty good stand-in for an SG from Mr.
Right?
Young.
Yeah. It's not bad. I think the thing that really stands out about this guitar with its age is that like the way that note fed back but stayed sweet and desirable.
Yeah.
I rarely ever heard that on an instrument that isn't old. That's just something that, I don't know if it's the years of glue drying in a certain way, but it's just got that extra sweetness. And also just dynamically, it's a little more reactive, you know. You can literally be like, so you can just sting it and then turn it, you know. You know, and then flip it over. It's just, yeah, it's what you want in an instrument. I mean, it's a holy grail. There's a reason. There's a reason it was a few more dollars than these ones. And it's probably the best Les Paul I've ever played in my life, for sure.
Hey, I'm John Boldsworth from Premier Guitar. I'm with Jared James Nichols. We are somewhere in the Caribbean, or
Yeah, we're on a boat.
we're on a boat. We're on a boat, and you were with this, your signature guitar,
Yeah, man.
Now I remember seeing you. I mean, you came out big, man. I remember seeing you with that custom one pickup.
Yep.
And that was like your thing, and nobody's doing anything like that.
Yeah.
So tell me about that guitar and how it morphed into this.
Yeah, man. So this is Old Glory. This is the signature that came out with Epiphone last year. I'm super proud of it. It's based on my Gibson. And
So
the
how
Gibson-
close is it to your Gibson? Did you know, is it basically the same ingredients?
It's the same ingredients, man. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's got a Seymour Duncan P90, just as my Gibson did.
Correct.
I mean, I modded the hell out of that thing.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
So it's got CTS pots. It's got bigger frets.
Oh,
it's got
okay.
a big neck. It's got a really big neck. Then we grovered the back.
I love that, and I love the white.
Yeah, I did
That's-
an old Stinger.
Yeah, that is.
Because you know the
great.
guitar's like not weird enough. We gotta throw a Stinger on it.
Yeah, yeah.
And it's just a really simple instrument. I love wrap tail bridges. I play with my fingers.
Yeah.
And I feel like I just react better with them.
Huh.
I don't know what it is. It's like it's more gritty. And
Man,
the reason, you know,
and you dig in hard, man.
Yeah.
I mean,
well, the P90 thing, it's like fronting a trio, and I always wanted to like stick out like a sore thumb a little bit.
Yeah.
And no pun intended. And the P90 with the wrap tail, this combination on a Les Paul, it just growled, and I love it.
Right.
And I'm super proud of this guitar. You know, I've beaten the snot out of this thing.
Right.
Every single day.
no restraint.
None.
No.
I'm waiting to snap the neck.
Yeah,
man.
yeah. Oh, yeah. I was watching you play with Bonamassa the other day on that jam, which was, you killed it, man. It was
Thank you,
great.
brother.
And I was watching you just beat that, I think 53.
53, yeah.
I thought, oh, wow, man.
Yeah.
No restraint.
I don't know what it is. Like a lot of guys are, you know, when they play guitar, for me it's like it's really physical.
Yeah.
It's a physical thing. It's like going in like a boxing match. We can feel the boat going like this. Brother. I get into it, and I'm like the guy. I make the faces, and
Yeah.
I just don't care, man. I pour everything I have into the simplest rig. And I always laugh with my buddies because I love rig rundowns. I love Premier Guitar, and I always said, if I ever do a rig rundown, it's going to be the simplest thing ever.
Oh, yeah. It's like, so what's your pick?
Yeah.
These?
Yeah, man, I'm just a simple guitar player, I feel, and I kind of just developed my own style out of trying something different.
Yeah, well, you're a great guitar player. Love hearing you play.
Thank you, brother.
And love what you're doing with this. When you travel, do you usually have a backup for that, or just?
Well, actually, until I got Old Red, I traveled the world over, like 308 days with one guitar.
Yeah.
I don't
Huh.
travel like with a tech or anything. I do everything myself, man. If I need a setup or whatever, it's such a simple.
What strings do you run?
So for strings, 10 to 52s,
Wow.
DRs.
Beefy.
Yeah, I like the DRs. I got introduced to those about a year ago, and you know, like everyone does the coated thing. You know, like a
Yeah,
lot of people do that
sure.
stuff. These are like coated on the inside, but the outside feels like a normal string, and they last really long. Can I play? And
Oh yeah.
so
yeah.
if you do like bending stuff, you can really. You can do really big bends, like.
Right.
They're really good touch-sensitive strings, and yeah, my guitar buzzes. That's part of the thing.
Part of the charm.
Yep.
Do you and you get so much out of that one pickup? Were you jacking with the tone a lot?
Always, yeah. I'm the thing. Like a lot of guys have pedal boards and stuff like that. I always love the old school players that their lead tone was when they turned up to 10.
Right.
So for me, if I'm playing a rhythm thing, like the volume knob is so sensitive. So if I start at 1. And if I have rhythm going, it's you know, I'll just back off. And then if I want to get like I love like Clapton, like my heroes are like Leslie West, Stevie, Clapton. If I want to get that more of that woman tone, I'll just throw it all the way back. If I want the wah-wah.
Yeah. Right?
He knows what's up.
All right.
But yeah, man, I try and make the best with the least amount of stuff.
Well, and I think maybe because of that one pickup and that setup, you get so much nuance, man.
Yeah.
Because you're always working. So many, like a lot of cats are just wide open all the time, and you get all that variety like that. Yeah, it's really impressive, man.
Thanks, man. Yeah, I
great.
just love playing guitar, and yeah, it's awesome. It's really simple, but I'm always in the moment.
This big fella.
This little guy.
This is new.
This is a one owner, 59.
Wow.
Was purchased in Topeka, Kansas, and he played it his whole life, and I bought it from his sister.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's a trip.
It's like it's the first 59 I ever played. I've never even really seen a 59 before
in
this.
person.
And I just walked into the shop and it had just got there. So I wasn't thinking about it or anything.
Now that you've had time with it, do you think, a lot of those instruments from 59, 60 get some hype?
It's incredible.
Big price tags. Do you think,
It's incredible.
mojo
It does a
is there?
special thing, yeah. It's got a special sound. I used it in the studio a bunch already this past month. It's really cool.
Yeah.
That's the kind of like guitar that he would have probably normally just been like, I don't know, because it's already a famous guitar.
Yeah.
Sort of, and there's not like something unusual to discover with it. What to discover with it is like what everybody sees about it in the first place.
Yeah.
And it's beautiful. Like those pickups are
That's
pretty
the magic,
magical.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, this has been a lot of fun to play on the tour, and to jump between this and a PV Razor, kind of like
Nothing's off the table.
I love that.
This is a guitar that's on loan for the year, and we're gonna loan it to somebody else. Belongs to my friend Richard. It's a 1960 Sunburst Les Paul.
Wow.
And he's going to sell it for charity.
Oh, wow.
And he bought it in, I believe, 1967. He'll be here tonight. Bought it in 1967, and I think he paid $300 for it. He's kept it. He used to work for Gibson, and so he was nice enough to loan it to me for a year. We've been taking it around the world, getting some use out of it. It was at the Albert Hall and blah, blah, blah.
Wow.
And, it'll make an appearance, I think, on a DVD, and somebody's going to get a great burst. And
With a real history.
And a lot of money's going to go to a great cause. So when he approached me through Walter Carter, Christy Carter at Carter's Vintage, I was like, wait a minute, I get to play a cool guitar for a year? and a lot of people benefit from it? I'm like, sold. And
right.
We're going to try to get into somebody else's hands too, that could take care of it and tour around a little bit. So it's nice and flamey, but he's had it for years.
Oh, that's great.
And it's like it's a cool piece of history. It proves they're still out there,
Last but definitely not least, Billy. Billy, how you doing?
Good.
Thank you for hanging out with us. This is a special treat to talk to you about all your gear.
Yeah.
And let's just get right into it. Let's talk about this one. I know this is a special guitar.
Yeah, so I was a guitar tech for many years, worked for Nine Inch Nails, was one of the bands, and this was the first guitar that I got in my hands to work on of Trent's, and laid it down, and I think one of the instructions that came down the pipe that day was, he wanted to trade out a pickup. So I was soldering, and I laid the soldering iron down, and it just slipped, and I did that.
Oof.
And it went right, hit the finish. I was like, oh my God. I mean, I thought like I'm fired.
You're
right
fired,
away.
yeah.
And then the tech next to me was working on stuff, and it's almost like going into war, and he just goes, dude, That's the least of your concerns. that is not a big deal as of what's going to happen tonight. And you can see over the years what had happened.
Yeah.
Like, I don't even know what that was. It couldn't have been a cymbal, but it had to be something like a piece of scaffolding that it cut through.
And people, if they're not familiar with Nine Inch Nails back in the day, and probably even still today, that notoriously for smashing guitars.
Yeah.
And,
This was a Downward Spiral tour in 94,
Okay.
95. And yeah, this thing got launched into the truss within minutes. So. And this guitar actually got the headstock ripped off it. And within the first probably couple weeks of working on it, maybe even the first week. And so it went missing. It got thrown, this got put in the crowd, someone ripped the headstock off, it went missing, and I got another guitar of this exact color that came in. And then, you know, fashioned this thing on there poorly. And it's at the wrong angle. It went on a couple different times, but you know, this is, I don't know if you guys can see if that angle translates, but it's not the right pitch.
Well, you're here in Nashville, or at Nashville headquarters, Gibson headquarters. You probably can go to the C.
But I don't want anything changed about it. I've actually talked with Gibson about doing a signature model, and this is like one of the key things is reducing that pitch to that, because this is my favorite.
Yeah, and I remember you did an
guitar.
interview with us a couple years ago with the live releases coming out, and you said that, I mean, functionally, or not functionally, but design-wise, it's totally whack. The neck
Yeah.
is completely, but it's what you're used to, and
Yeah.
that sound, that feel.
Yeah, I mean, it feels great. You would think I don't have any attack, but
Yeah.
it does. So yeah, that tour I went through 137 Les Pauls
Wow.
when I did the final count. And so this was the number one of all of them. So at the end of the tour, Trent just said, you know, take 2 or 3 guitars with you, whatever you want. And so
Hey, I'm here with guitar tech Dave Whiston. Dave, thanks for joining us, man.
Yeah, my pleasure, man.
Hey, man, tell me about these guitars. These are all in your care.
That's correct.
Absolute historic instruments. Let's start with this bad boy over here.
This is significant. He started out with a Rick. He had a Rick stolen out in front of the record label.
Oh, really?
And so he was in New York, or went to New York, and he was looking for a Les Paul Standard because Eric Clapton was playing
Sure.
one, and Jimmy Page had one, and he's like, so he went into, I don't know if it was a Manny's, but it was some music store, I don't remember now.
Yeah.
And the guy, he goes, I want to check out a Les Paul, and the guy goes, well, I have this black custom. He's like, well, okay, I really wanted a Sunburst, but I'll check it out. And he plugged it in and he tuned it down to D, because he, like a blues, like the old blues guys tuned down to D. And he plugged it into essentially a bass amp, which was the custom 215.
Yeah.
And that was that Fogerty sound was born.
Right.
So
That's it. Let's see that guy.
Yeah. This is I believe 68. This is
Oh,
original.
how great.
Yeah. This one, I'm not sure about the pickups in this. I think these are original though.
Man, it looks original.
Yeah, no, I think these are original. I have some that have been replaced. But this is, one of his main go-to guitars.
Wow.
I have several of them varying in vintage from 68 to 72-ish.
Yeah.
So that range. They're all heavy mahogany.
But that's the
Old
one.
mahogany. These probably weigh 9 pounds, 10 pounds.
Wow. Hold on, can I hold it for a second?
Sure.
Ooh, wow.
I mean, that's how they made them in the
Yeah.
60s and 70s. And they have a very distinctive sound because they're dense.
Yeah.
Dense, hard, heavy mahogany with a slim neck.
And is that all mahogany? That
This
year?
is all mahogany this
Okay.
year. I believe this is before they started sandwiching them.
Yeah.
But I think this is actually a maple cap.
Okay.
So
Because I know some of them were some of the Black Beauties were
the
all
original
mahogany.
50s were all mahogany.
Yeah.
And I think these are maple capped. I don't think that when they reissued these in 68 or whatever the first
Yeah.
ones were,
Yeah.
I think they actually were maple caps.
Okay.
And then they
Cool.
went to a sandwich where they were 2-piece.
Right, the 70s sandwichy.
Right. Yeah.
Hey, backstage at the G&R show with Adam Day. Adam, thanks so much for joining us, man.
Thanks for having me.
I
Nice
know
to see you guys.
you are really busy.
We have our moments here, yeah.
Yeah.
It's a long show and a lot going on.
It's a 3-hour show, right?
3.5. If you want to get technical.
God, how many guitars do you go through?
He'll probably play about 15 a show.
Wow.
We've got about 28 on the road here, and we kind of bring them in and out.
How often do you go between string changes? Because they're not playing them a lot, but
No, I go about every 8 or 9 songs. Yeah.
Wow.
He's tough on everything.
yeah,
He
yeah,
sweats a lot. And
Plays hard.
He plays hard, passionately hard.
yeah.
So, I try to stay ahead of the try to stay ahead of the curve, and
Yeah.
you know, because he'll break strings.
Right, right.
So.
Well, let's start with this.
Yeah.
Tell me the whole story on this.
Well, this is a 1987 standard, and this was one of the first two that Gibson gave him when he first got his Gibson deal in '87. So this started on the road on the Appetite for Destruction tour.
Wow.
And as you can see, it's served its time. It's been broken several times. It was his main guitar through the Appetite and most of the Use Your Illusion tours as well.
Wow.
You know?
Now, you've been with Slash since, for how long now?
I started in '88.
Wow.
Yeah, so.
Yeah, so you and that guitar have a lot of miles.
Yeah, we go back.
Yeah.
You know, he was playing with Alice Cooper, and the cherry fell out of his cigarette. Landed right here. He was jamming with Steve Winwood, Nile Rodgers, playing a Hendrix song, and he did one of these neck bends, snapped the neck right in half. The headstock came up and hit him in the face, and the guitar was dangling by its strings. And that was a real rock and roll moment there.
Yeah, that is great. That's great. So, okay, besides the repairs of, you know, broken headstocks and such, what else have you done to it? The pickups, are those?
These are his Seymour Duncan Alnico 2 Pros. Pretty much we put in everything, except there's a few that we like the sound of the Gibson pickups in. But
Other than that, what other modifications have you made?
There's not much. A couple of them will have select value of tone capacitors.
Mm-hmm.
He'll play with his tone quite a bit, and certain songs need a certain value of tone capacitance.
Yeah.
So other than that, there's not much. You know, he's played so many guitars through the years that
Right.
he's used to playing different radius necks, different fret wire. So he's got preferences, but he'll just play anything.
Right.
You know,
That's great.
that works for him.
You know, it's interesting. You ride that bridge up, that stop tailpiece up high, right?
Well, these standards had a greater neck to body angle than the reissues, for one thing. But mainly, I try to keep the bridge from having too much of a break angle.
Oh, okay, that makes sense.
Because he plays so hard here, and if I put this tailpiece down to the right down to the body, he'll be snapping strings before you know it.
Well, I guess that is going to relieve some of that pressure.
Yeah.
That's great. Do you find it tough? I know during sound check you have to play, and do you find it difficult playing with the guitar that low, or are you just used to it?
I'm used to it. I can't play everything at that, but I can't play everything anyway. But I play what I need to play.
Yeah.
At this level, so I am used to that.
Yeah. Well, that's an amazing bit of rock and roll history.
Yeah.
Well, let's look at its
All right. Well,
brother or cousin or whatever.
this is a replica that Gibson did of what they call the Appetite for Destruction guitar,
Yeah.
which actually was the Appetite for Destruction guitar. It's not actually Gibson. This one is. The original replica was not a Gibson.
That's right. Who made that guitar?
It was a gentleman named Chris Derrick, and he's since passed. But there was a few of these going around, and his manager brought this into the studio during Appetite for Destruction. And the original's got such a unique voice, and he's used it. I've been around for most of the recordings, and that guitar has been on quite a bit.
Yeah.
You know, and so later on, Gibson took this into their own hands. They took the guitar and they modeled it, and he's probably got about a half dozen of these.
Well, how close is it? If you were to A/B them, can you hear a difference?
You know, I haven't A/B'd them in the studio, at least in a long time. I'm sure you'd hear a slight difference.
Yeah.
You know, it's just so hard to replicate the sonics, no matter what you do.
Yeah.
You know, you can get the weight of the wood, you can get everything right, but it's not always going to sound identical. And that guitar just has this unique mid-range voice.
Yeah.
That just works.
Sure. Hey, this is John Bollinger with Premier Guitar, and I'm with Peter Frampton at his rehearsal hall in Nashville, Tennessee. Peter, thanks for inviting us over.
Pleasure. Thanks for coming.
My pleasure. So I've got to ask, this is probably the most iconic Les Paul in rock history.
Well, it's one of the good stories. Yeah, it does have a good story.
Come on, spill the details.
Well, I'll try and get to the point. There's a lot of points. So, when I was playing with Humble Pie in 1971 in San Francisco, I had swapped my SG guitar that I was using at the time for a 335 Gibson, and with Humble Pie, we played so loud that every time I turned up for a solo, my solo consisted of which probably would be good now, but then it wasn't so good. So anyway, a friend of mine in the audience said, "Look, I couldn't help but see you got problems there. We're playing at the Fillmore West for like 3 or 4 nights," and he said, "I could bring you a Les Paul." I said, "I'm not really big on Les Pauls, you know, I like SGs and stuff." And he said, "Well," I said, "anything's better than it." So he brought it the next. I played it that night, and I don't think my feet touched the ground because it was so great, and it didn't feed back, which was great. And so when I came off stage that night, I just said I gave it back to him, and Mark Mariana is his name, and from the Bay Area, and he said, I said, "I don't think you'd ever sell this, would you?" And he said, "No." I said, "Well, that's fine. Thank you so much." He said, "No, I'm going to give it to you." So, you know, like jaw dropping. Say that again. So, yes, he gave me this guitar in 1971.
Now,
and,
did it have the 3 pickups in it at
yeah,
that point?
it had just come back from Gibson it was originally a 1954 Black Beauty. So it had the old P90s, the 2 different looking ones, right?
Yeah, the Alnico and the...
yes.
Yeah.
And no middle pickup. And I don't believe it was black. And so he had it. I'm not sure if Mark actually routed it for a 3rd pickup or whether he had Gibson do it, but he sent it back to them and said, "Look, after he'd done a lot of sanding and the body is thinner than..." He was getting off the old paint job, I guess.
Oh, yeah.
The body is a little bit thinner because of his slightly heavy hand, and the neck as well, which is why I love it so much. And so he had them route it for 3 humbuckers, and then he wired it, I believe, the same way as I have it now, which is if you forget about the middle pickup, the selector switch and goes straight to this volume, and this volume is a master volume for these 2, the neck and the bridge position. Sure. Right? So that's there's the bridge. And the neck, and then the 2. And then if we turn that off, there's no switch for the middle position, but if you turn the bottom volume up,
Right.
which gives you a big fat middle strat sound,
Right.
you know. So if you bring it in with, let's see. Got that stratty sound, you know.
Totally.
And so I dial that in whenever I feel like it, you know. And so that's the way it's, and then that's the master tone for these 2, and that's the tone for the center one, so same thing. But anyway, so then I used it from 1970 you gave it to me, not 1971, until 1980, and we went to, so it was on every record I played on my own, other people's projects, and then we went to South America for a tour in 1980, and we'd done Brazil and Argentina, and we were on our way to Panama to see Mr. Noriega at the time, and so who we almost saw, and unfortunately, we had a day off, so the equipment, we were flying commercially and having the gear underneath, you know. But we went separately because of a day off to Panama, and then the gear went on a cargo plane which crashed in Caracas, Venezuela on takeoff. So the only thing that was salvageable at all was, as usual, the tail of the plane. Well, we were told that everything was, I mean, it was 6-8 hours of just a huge inferno, you know.
Wow.
Unfortunately, people, the pilots and the loading people, we lost them. So that was very, very sad. And then I was told, I was having lunch in Panama by my tour manager, we've had a problem, you know, and I said, first thing I said was, oh gosh, does that mean my guitar? He said, yeah. So, and then he told me the tragedy of it all, and the guitar didn't seem to matter anymore at that point. And so I pretty much for the next 30 years mourned it and thought, oh, I bet it sounds like the best guitar in the world, you know. And every Les Paul I picked up sounded, nah, I don't think this is how you don't know though.
Right.
You've got no A-B.
Sure.
You know, so anyway, about 4 years ago, I guess now, or more, 5 years ago, when I'll have to work that out because I got it back when Frampton Comes Alive 35 came out, so 5 years ago, just before, maybe 6. So yeah, so and I opened up my peterframpton.com contact Peter here emails, and which I look at them all, and there's an email saying check this out, and there's probably 12 or 15 forensically taken shots of this guitar with its white Seymour Duncans that it had on at the time. And, you know, with this here, and I knew it inside out. And as soon as I saw a picture with the pickups out, and I saw the way it had been routed, I've been inside there many times and checked it out and stuff. So I knew it was mine. It was pretty obvious, but I didn't agree with the chap who had it. But there's a sort of gray area there. Someone obviously stole it from we think the guard who was guarding the debris of the plane thought that the guitars, which had obviously made it in the tail of the broken off tail. So they said that there were, this is 30 years later, they said there were like 4 or 5 guitars that made it, and they were all sold, you know. And because when we went down there a week after the crash, they said, oh no, everything went up in flames. So so it ended up being played by a musician in Caracas for like 15 years. And then people started saying, that looks an awful lot like, apparently. So then he went down to, he sold it to someone who lived in Curacao, and that's where it ended up. And the son of the person that ended up with it took it to a luthier to be worked on because it wouldn't play very well. And so that was the guy that actually took it apart, took pictures.
Wow,
and
tipped you off?
Yeah.
Oh, that's great.
So it took another 2 years to convince everybody that was involved that we weren't going to have the FBI waiting at Miami airport for them. And eventually we met here in a hotel in Nashville, and I had, you know, video cameras going. I wanted to get the whole bit, you know. And it walks in the door in this horrible vinyl guitar cover. I wouldn't even call it a case. You know, Peter, here it is. You know, feel the weight, Peter. You know this is the one. And because it is a light Les Paul, it's for a mahogany one. And so then I got it out, and that video is online, and you can see it on FCA 35 video.
Oh, I've got to see it.
Yeah, it's 20 minutes long. So that's how I got it back, and then we went straight from the hotel room. We went straight to Gibson, and verified, you know, everything about it, and they took it apart and said that it was a 54, that you could see where it was originally conceived as a Black Beauty, you know. So.
Wow. You heard it here. Wow. Amazing story. We could stop now, but there's more stuff to show.
Yeah.
So that's incredible. So did your red Strat, the Show Me the Way, was that on that flight as well?
That was a 55 Strat that, yes, I bought in Chicago from Bumblebee Bob, who was a great harp player. Yeah, he sold me the 55 Strat, and I think it's a 55 Tweed Champ.
Oh, wow.
And I met him on a corner. We got off the bus. I picked it up, gave him the money, and got back on the bus, and that was it. He was a great chap, though. We've lost him. But yeah, and I still have that 55 Tweed Champ as well. So
Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
That's great. So when you got it back, did you immediately bring it back on tour with you? And
as soon as it was, I left it at Gibson because you know, the knobs didn't work, and you know, everything was pretty much gummed up.
Right.
You know, and I didn't want to change too much about it because obviously it's really burnt. This is where the fire really got it right here, and turned the inlay there into just a 7, you know, which is kind of neat.
Yeah.
Now, you know, you can see what it's like on the back, and I mean, I remember doing that. And there's some parts here. You can come in for a close-up probably later, but there's some parts here where my guitar in the mid-70s fell off the stage and fell flat, and the knobs all went in, you know, and that was fixed. So that was another telltale thing that I knew this was mine, you know. But yeah, I just, after they made it playable, then in fact, the very first time we played New York, not the Academy of Music, the Beacon. I'm going back too far now. The Beacon, I believe in 2012, something like that, 11 or 12, when we did the FCA 35 second part of the tour. I brought it out for Do You Feel? And I came out after it. It was on the stage first, and we put a spotlight on it and lit it up. So yeah, but I was doing a thing for Sunday morning. At that time, they were doing a story on the guitar, and so Anthony asked me before I went on. He said, "So how do you feel? Are you nervous?" I said, "Yeah, I'm more nervous about playing this guitar than any other." And when I actually started let me put it on that. When I started this, I went, oh, because I was so nervous about it. So, and luckily, very nice of them, they edited that part out on Sunday morning. But I was more nervous about playing this than playing the show, you know, because, you know, it just, I don't know, it's just made into such a big deal,
right?
You know, especially a guitar that you had written off 32 years ago.
Yeah.
You know, so it was just a very, very intense moment in my career.
Yeah. Well, now that you've settled in, is it still your best sounding guitar?
I would say that it's the best sounding guitar for all the stuff that it was recorded, that it was used on.
Right, right.
You know, because it depends on if you write, say if you wrote a riff on a specific electric through a specific amp for me, there's a reason why I wrote that riff, because of the sound that I'm getting with this specific guitar and that specific amp,
right,
and whatever else I've got going on effects-wise. And that's what is inspiring me at that moment. So it's like, sound is so important to me. It's if I've got a bad sound, it's very hard for me to play if it's not the sound that I want. So that's why it's taken me years and years and years to sort of work out what I like and what I don't like, and you know, put it in this behemoth over here.
So how many songs are you playing this on the set as it is?
Probably about 3 or 4.
Does the crowd go crazy every time they see it?
Well, yeah, sometimes I start off with another one and then I go, no. And then I go back and I get this one and they go, yes. So, yeah.
That's great.